Detroit built a car with a mini nuclear reactor instead of a gas tank, the Ford Nucleon, meant to run on radioactive fuel. Then the US government seriously proposed a weapon designed to make enemy soldiers fall in love instead of fight. And somebody else built a landmine that needed live chickens stuffed inside just to stay warm enough to explode. Yeah, chickens in a bomb. Pure panic, zero quality control, unlimited budget. Number 30 is the one that'll make you check if this is even real. So hit subscribe faster than Americans hit the panic button in 1962. 1. The Army once built a weapon capable of killing the soldier who fired it. The Davy Crockett was a real hand-carried bazooka, designed to launch a nuclear warhead across a battlefield. Its blast radius was so massive that the person firing it stood almost inside the danger zone. Commanders understood this risk clearly and issued the weapon to troops anyway without much hesitation. Soldiers joked that surviving the shot meant outrunning physics itself. It became one of the strangest weapons ever added to the American arsenal. A tool meant to protect soldiers instead turned them into the punchline of a deadly joke. 2. Some weapons kill through impact. This one killed simply by flying overhead. Project Pluto was a real nuclear-powered cruise missile, designed to fly low and fast for days without ever stopping. Its exhaust alone leaked deadly radiation onto everything beneath its flight path across the land. Engineers nicknamed it flying garbage because it poisoned entire regions just by passing above them quietly. It carried no traditional warhead because its own body worked as the weapon itself. Scientists eventually realized they could never test it safely without contaminating their own soil in the process. 3. A British weapon once needed live chickens sealed inside it just to keep working. Blue Peacock was a real nuclear landmine designed to sit buried under German soil for years waiting to detonate. Engineers worried the freezing ground would disable the internal wiring before it ever got the chance to explode. Their bizarre solution involved sealing live chickens inside the casing to generate body heat and keep the electronics warm. The plan was seriously considered by British defense officials at the time. A nuclear weapon nearly depended on poultry for survival instead of advanced engineering or technology. 4. The President of the United States once needed a plane just to stay alive during a nuclear war. The Doomsday plane was built to keep American leadership commanding operations from the sky if the ground became unsafe. It stayed fueled and ready at all times in case nuclear war broke out. Without warning, the aircraft carried advanced communication systems, allowing command decisions to continue uninterrupted during total chaos below. Crews trained constantly for a mission they hoped would never actually happen in real life. It symbolized how seriously the country prepared for a war that could erase entire cities in minutes. 5. A cat was once turned into a spy, using surgery instead of training. Acoustic Kitty was a real CIA project that implanted a microphone and antenna directly inside a living cat. The goal was using the animal to secretly record conversations near Soviet targets without raising suspicion. After years of expensive development, the cat was finally released for its very first mission. Almost immediately, it wandered into traffic and was struck by a passing taxi. The mission ended within minutes of beginning. The CIA quietly buried the entire program along with any hope of spy animals succeeding. 6. The United States once seriously considered detonating a nuclear bomb on the moon. Project A119 was a real Air Force plan meant to intimidate the Soviet Union during the space race. Officials wanted a visible explosion that the entire world could witness from Earth without question. Scientists calculated the blast would need to be enormous enough to appear as a bright flash in the night sky. The plan was eventually shelved due to public relations concerns rather than technical limitations. A weapon meant to impress the world instead became one of the strangest secrets in American history. 7. A car company once believed the future of driving was powered by nuclear energy. The Ford Nucleon was a real concept vehicle, designed to run entirely on a miniature nuclear reactor. Engineers imagined drivers swapping out reactor cores the same way people replace batteries today. Nobody addressed how ordinary families would safely handle radioactive material in their own driveways. The design never advanced past a small-scale model due to obvious safety concerns. It remains one of the boldest and most impractical car concepts ever proposed to the American public. 8. The Soviet Union built a system designed to launch nuclear weapons even if every leader was already dead. Dead Hand was a real automated command system meant to guarantee retaliation after a devastating first strike. Sensors across the country were built to detect signs of a nuclear attack without requiring human confirmation. If conditions were met, the system could authorize launches with minimal human involvement remaining. Soviet officials trusted machines to make decisions that could end civilization within minutes. It remains one of the most unsettling pieces of Cold War technology ever created. 9. Ordinary citizens once became unknowing test subjects in their own government's drug experiments. MK-Ultra was a real CIA program, searching for ways to control the human mind through chemical experimentation. Some subjects were given LSD without their knowledge during ordinary daily activities like dinners or meetings. Researchers hoped the drug could unlock a method for forcing confessions or altering behavior entirely. Some victims suffered lasting psychological damage from experiments they never agreed to participate in. The program remained hidden for decades until government records finally confirmed what really happened. 10. The United States government once paid actual psychics to spy on Russia using their minds. The Stargate project was a real program exploring whether remote viewing could gather intelligence from great distances. Selected individuals attempted to mentally visualize hidden military locations without ever physically visiting them. Officials treated the results seriously enough to continue funding the program for roughly 2 decades straight. Some sessions reportedly produced details that investigators found difficult to fully explain or dismiss. The program eventually ended quietly once results proved too inconsistent for continued government investment. 11. An entire secret city was once planned beneath the frozen ice of Greenland. Project Iceworm was a real American plan to hide 600 nuclear missiles inside tunnels drilled deep into the ice sheet. Engineers built working tunnels and even tested how machinery could survive extreme Arctic conditions underground. Officials believed the ice itself would help hide the missiles from Soviet satellites and reconnaissance flights. Unfortunately, the ice sheet slowly shifted and crushed the tunnels faster than anyone expected. The entire project quietly collapsed both literally and financially, before a single missile was ever installed. 12. The Pentagon once looked into building a chemical weapon based purely on attraction. The gay bomb was a real proposal exploring whether a chemical could make enemy soldiers attracted to each other instead of fighting. Researchers imagined widespread confusion breaking out across enemy ranks as discipline completely collapsed within minutes. Officials seriously reviewed the proposal as part of broader non-lethal weapon research during that era. The plan never advanced past early paperwork due to obvious ethical and practical concerns. It remains one of the strangest weapon ideas ever seriously discussed inside a military building. 13. A world leader was once nearly killed by something he planned to smoke casually. Castro's exploding cigar was a real device rigged by the CIA as part of an assassination attempt. Agents packed the cigar with explosives designed to detonate the moment it was lit and inhaled. The plan relied entirely on Castro choosing that specific cigar from among several identical-looking options. Records later confirmed multiple similar plots were attempted, using everyday objects nobody would suspect. The scheme never succeeded, but it became one of the most bizarre assassination attempts ever documented. 14. The Army once dreamed of building a fortress with guns on the surface of the moon. Project Horizon was a real proposal to establish an armed military base on the moon by 1967. Planners imagined soldiers stationed there, monitoring Soviet activity from a location nobody else could reach. Engineers calculated supply routes, living quarters, and defense systems needed to sustain life that far away. The plan required resources far beyond what the government was willing to commit at the time. It was eventually scrapped, leaving the moon as one battlefield the Army never actually reached. 15. Quiet American neighborhoods once sat surrounded by missile bases. Nobody living there knew about. Nike missile rings were real anti-aircraft installations, secretly built around major cities to intercept incoming Soviet bombers. Suburban families drove past fenced-off military sites without understanding what was actually hidden inside them. The missiles stood ready around the clock in case enemy aircraft ever crossed into American airspace. Many of these sites eventually closed and quietly faded into ordinary parks or forgotten fields nearby. Few residents today realize their neighborhood once stood on the edge of nuclear defense. 16. A cartoon turtle once taught millions of children how to survive a nuclear explosion. Duck and Cover was a real government safety film instructing kids to hide beneath their school desks during an attack. The cartoon suggested a simple wooden desk could somehow protect children from a nuclear blast wave. Schools across the country practiced these drills regularly as sirens periodically interrupted ordinary classroom lessons without warning. Many children grew up believing furniture alone could save them from total nuclear destruction. The film later became remembered as one of the most unintentionally comedic safety lessons ever made. 17. Engineers once designed a spaceship meant to fly by detonating small nuclear bombs behind it. The Orion project was a real proposal for propulsion, using controlled nuclear explosions to push a spacecraft forward. Scientists believed this method could send massive ships deep into space faster than traditional rocket fuel allowed. Small-scale models using conventional explosives were actually built and tested successfully here on Earth. Concerns over radioactive fallout eventually made the full-scale nuclear version impossible to pursue safely. It remains one of the boldest space travel concepts ever seriously attempted by American scientists. 18. The CIA once built a robotic fish just to spy underwater without anyone noticing. This robotic catfish was a real surveillance device, designed decades before drones became common in modern warfare. Engineers built it to swim naturally through water while secretly collecting information near sensitive foreign locations. Its realistic movement allowed it to blend in among actual fish without drawing unwanted attention nearby. The technology stayed classified for years before finally being revealed to the American public. It showed how far intelligence agencies were willing to go for the smallest advantage. 19. Spies once dug an entire tunnel just to listen in on Soviet phone calls. The Berlin Spy Tunnel was a real underground passage built beneath East Berlin to secretly tap communication lines. Agents worked in cramped tunnels for months, intercepting conversations they hoped would reveal Soviet military secrets. The operation ran successfully for almost a year, before Soviet officials eventually discovered the hidden tunnel. Both sides later learned the operation had been compromised from the very beginning through inside information. It remains one of the most dramatic underground spy operations of the entire Cold War. 20. Border security once relied on something as strange as animal urine to catch intruders. Coyote urine sensors were real covert devices, using animal scent chemistry to detect unauthorized movement across borders. Officials believed the natural scent could mask hidden equipment while still triggering alerts when disturbed by people. Agents monitored these remote locations expecting to catch smugglers or infiltrators crossing quietly at night. The unusual method actually proved effective enough to remain part of broader border security strategies. It stands as one of the strangest tools ever used to protect American borders quietly. 21. A famous psychologist once tried teaching pigeons to guide bombs onto their targets. Project Pigeon was a real experiment where B.F. Skinner trained live pigeons to peck at images inside a missile nose cone. The pecking motion was designed to adjust the bomb's direction toward the correct target automatically. Military officials actually funded this research seriously before eventually questioning whether birds belonged inside weapons systems. The project was shelved once more reliable electronic guidance technology became available for practical use. It remains one of the most unusual weapon experiments ever taken seriously by the American military. 22. Fear of a missile shortage once pushed America into building thousands of weapons it barely needed. The missile gap panic began when officials believed the Soviet Union had far more nuclear missiles than the United States. Politicians used this fear to justify massive spending on new weapons programs throughout the decade. Later evidence revealed the supposed Soviet advantage never actually existed in the way officials had claimed. By then, the extra missiles had already been built and quietly added to the arsenal. It became a costly lesson in how fear alone can shape national defense decisions. 23. Families once prepared for nuclear war by buying kits sold right alongside ordinary household items. Suburban fallout shelter kits included tiny toilets, hand crank radios, and enough candy rations to last for weeks. Companies marketed these kits as a practical way for parents to protect children during an actual attack. Many households built shelters in their own basements or backyards, just in case war ever arrived. Advertisements made survival sound almost as simple as stocking a pantry before a winter storm. It showed how deeply nuclear anxiety had settled into everyday American family life. 24. A nuclear weapon was once designed small enough to fit inside an ordinary briefcase. The W-54 mini-nuke was a real warhead built compact enough for a single soldier to carry and deploy secretly. Military planners imagined situations where a small team could smuggle the weapon directly into enemy territory undetected. Its size made it incredibly convenient, while also making its potential for misuse deeply concerning to officials. Some versions were even considered for use as portable demolition charges during combat operations. It remains one of the smallest yet most dangerous weapons ever added to the American arsenal. 25. Congress once built an entire hidden city underneath a peaceful vacation resort. This secret bunker was constructed beneath a luxury hotel to shelter government officials during a nuclear emergency. Guests enjoying spa treatments and golf outings had no idea an entire underground facility existed right beneath them. The bunker included dormitories, medical facilities, and communication systems meant to keep the government running secretly. It remained hidden from the public for decades until journalists eventually exposed its true purpose. It stands as one of the most surprising secrets ever hidden beneath ordinary American tourism. 26. Solid granite mountain rock was once carved out just to protect America's military command center. Cheyenne Mountain Complex was built directly into the mountain to help military leaders survive a direct nuclear strike. Engineers designed blast doors and reinforced tunnels strong enough to withstand explosions occurring dangerously close by. The facility housed advanced systems monitoring potential threats from anywhere around the entire world constantly. It became a symbol of how seriously America prepared for the possibility of nuclear war. The mountain itself effectively became one giant fortress built for survival and command. 27. An entire Pacific island once disappeared just to test how powerful a hydrogen bomb could get. Ivy Mike was a real hydrogen bomb test that completely vaporized the island where it was detonated. Scientists wanted definitive proof that this new weapon could far exceed the destructive power of earlier atomic bombs. The resulting explosion created a fireball and mushroom cloud visible from incredible distances across the ocean. Researchers studied the aftermath extensively to understand exactly how devastating future weapons could eventually become. It marked a terrifying new chapter in the global race for nuclear dominance. 28. Scientists once secretly collected bones from deceased children just to measure radiation levels worldwide. Project Sunshine was a real research effort, gathering human remains to study how nuclear fallout affected the human body. Researchers specifically wanted bone samples from children because their bodies absorbed radiation differently than fully grown adults. Families were never informed that their loved ones' remains had been used for this secretive research. The program raised serious ethical concerns once details eventually became public decades after it initially began. It remains one of the most unsettling scientific programs conducted during the entire Cold War. 29. Pilots once dumped shredded pieces of foil into the sky just to confuse enemy radar. Radar jamming chaff involved releasing thin metallic strips designed to scatter radar signals and hide aircraft from detection. Enemy radar operators would see confusing clusters of false signals instead of a single clear target. This simple yet effective technique helped protect bombers during dangerous missions deep into hostile airspace. Militaries around the world eventually adopted similar techniques as radar technology continued advancing over time. It proved that sometimes the simplest tricks could outsmart even the most advanced enemy technology. 30. America once built a submarine partly just to prove it could sail beneath the North Pole. The Nautilus was the world's first nuclear-powered submarine, capable of remaining underwater for extended periods without surfacing. Its journey beneath the polar ice cap demonstrated incredible technological capability during a tense period of competition. Crew members navigated carefully through freezing waters, where no traditional vessel had ever successfully traveled before. The achievement became a powerful symbol of American engineering superiority during the ongoing Cold War rivalry. It proved that nuclear power could accomplish feats previously considered impossible for any submarine. 31. The government once tried controlling the weather itself as a weapon against enemy territory. Military cloud seeding involved releasing chemicals into clouds, hoping to trigger heavy rainfall over hostile regions during conflict. Scientists believed flooding roads and disrupting supply lines could weaken enemy forces without a single weapon fired. Pilots flew missions specifically designed to manipulate storms rather than drop bombs or gather intelligence. Officials kept the program quiet for years, fearing public backlash over deliberately weaponizing natural weather patterns. Eventually, international agreements banned this kind of environmental warfare between nations altogether. 32. A single umbrella once became the weapon used to secretly poison a man on a busy street. The poison dart umbrella was a real device used by Soviet bloc agents to inject a target without being noticed. Witnesses only remembered feeling a slight jab before the man collapsed suddenly while walking through London. Doctors struggled for days trying to understand what had actually caused his mysterious and rapid decline. Investigators eventually traced the incident back to a tiny pellet hidden inside the umbrella's tip. The case became one of the most infamous assassination stories of the entire Cold War era. 33. Scientists once built a clock with no gears, just to warn the entire world about extinction. The Doomsday Clock was created as a symbolic way to track how close humanity stood to destroying itself. Experts adjusted the minute hand periodically, based on nuclear tensions, technology risks, and global political instability. News outlets reported every adjustment closely since the clock reflected genuine expert opinion rather than simple decoration. Millions of people around the world grew familiar with a clock that never told actual time. Instead, it quietly reminded everyone how fragile global peace could sometimes become. 34. America once explored triggering massive tsunamis as an actual weapon against enemy coastlines. Project SEAL involved testing whether underwater nuclear explosions could generate destructive waves capable of devastating coastal cities. Researchers detonated explosives near coastal areas, studying wave patterns and potential damage caused by the resulting surge. Early results suggested the concept had real potential, despite serious ethical and environmental concerns surrounding its use. Officials eventually abandoned the idea once they realized controlling ocean waves proved far messier than expected. The ocean itself turned out to be an unpredictable partner for warfare. 35. Spy satellites once dropped film out of the sky, and planes had to catch it mid-air. This process involved satellites ejecting canisters containing photographic film that pilots retrieved using specialized hooks attached to aircraft. Crews trained extensively to intercept these falling canisters before they crashed into the ocean and became unusable. Timing had to be nearly perfect, since a missed catch meant losing valuable intelligence gathered from orbit. This method remained standard practice for years before digital technology eventually replaced physical film entirely. Watching planes chase falling canisters became one of the strangest routines in American intelligence history. 36. Soviet scientists once built a bomb so powerful they had to shrink its design just to survive dropping it. The Tsar Bomba was originally planned even larger, before engineers realized the blast could destroy the plane delivering it. Calculations showed the shockwave alone might catch and destroy the bomber before it escaped the detonation site. Engineers redesigned the weapon smaller while still producing the most powerful explosion ever created by humans. Pilots were given only a slim chance of survival, despite the last-minute adjustments made to the bomb. The test became the loudest and most terrifying demonstration of destructive power ever recorded. 37. Ordinary cornfields across the Midwest once hid deadly nuclear missiles beneath quiet farmland trapdoors. Farmland missile silos were built directly into rural properties, disguised among crops that farmers continued planting normally overhead. Families sometimes lived and worked within sight of missiles capable of striking targets thousands of miles away. Farmers occasionally noticed unusual fencing or restricted areas, but rarely understood the true purpose hidden underground. Officials chose these quiet locations specifically because nobody would suspect weapons hidden beneath peaceful farming communities. The heartland of America secretly doubled as a launchpad for global destruction. 38. A simple pen once became one of the deadliest tools in the entire CIA arsenal. This spy pen was secretly designed to fire a poison dart silently without leaving any obvious trace behind. Agents could carry it casually into meetings while carrying a weapon capable of eliminating a target instantly. Its ordinary appearance made it perfect for situations requiring absolute secrecy and zero suspicion from nearby witnesses. Few weapons blended so easily into everyday life, while hiding such lethal capability inside a simple object. It showed how espionage often depended more on disguise than raw firepower. 39. The Navy once experimented with chemicals, hoping to force captured spies into telling the truth. Project Chatter explored whether certain drugs could act as a reliable truth serum during intense interrogation sessions. Researchers tested various substances, hoping to break through resistance without relying on physical torture or coercion. Results proved inconsistent since subjects sometimes told elaborate lies even while under the influence of these chemicals. Officials eventually questioned whether any drug could truly guarantee honesty from a trained and determined spy. The search for a perfect truth serum ultimately ended in disappointment. 40. Remote lighthouses across the Soviet coast once contained radioactive generators nobody bothered to properly secure. These unshielded nuclear generators powered lighthouses in isolated regions where regular maintenance crews rarely visited or monitored conditions. Over the years, many generators were abandoned entirely, left leaking radiation into surrounding soil and nearby wildlife. Explorers and scavengers sometimes stumbled upon these forgotten devices without realizing the serious danger hidden inside. Radiation levels near several sites remained dangerously high long after the Cold War officially ended. Forgotten machines quietly continued poisoning remote corners of the old Soviet coastline. 41. Satellites once floated silently in space with one single job of catching secret nuclear tests. Vela Hotel satellites were built specifically to detect nuclear explosions happening anywhere on Earth or even in space. Sensors on board could pick up flashes of radiation invisible to any observer standing on the ground. Officials used this data to confirm whether rival nations were secretly violating international nuclear testing agreements. The system operated quietly for years, watching the planet without anyone below ever noticing its presence. It became one of the most effective silent watchdogs of the entire nuclear age. 42. Entire secret documents were once shrunk down, smaller than a single printed period on paper. Microdot messages allowed spies to hide massive amounts of information inside something nearly invisible to the naked eye. Agents could carry sensitive intelligence past border checks without guards ever suspecting anything unusual within their belongings. A magnifying device was required just to read the tiny text hidden inside these microscopic dots. This method allowed communication between spies without relying on radios or letters that could easily be intercepted. It remains one of the cleverest disguises ever used in the history of espionage. 43. Cities across America were once wired with sensors built to detect a nuclear strike within seconds. The bomb alarm system placed ground sensors throughout major cities designed to instantly alert leadership the moment an explosion occurred. These sensors could transmit warnings directly to the president faster than any phone call or television broadcast possible. Officials wanted immediate confirmation of an attack, rather than waiting on confused reports from panicked witnesses nearby. The system operated quietly in the background, hoping its alarms would never actually need to sound. It represented just how seriously the country prepared for sudden nuclear disaster. 44. Hundreds of millions of tiny copper needles were once launched into space, just to keep communications running. Project Westford scattered these needles into orbit, forming a ring meant to reflect radio signals back toward Earth. Scientists worried that a Soviet attack could destroy traditional communication cables needed for military coordination during war. This strange copper ring was designed as a backup system capable of surviving even widespread destruction below. Astronomers criticized the project, fearing it could interfere with scientific observations of the night sky. It remains one of the strangest objects humanity ever intentionally placed into orbit. 45. Fake tanks made of rubber once fooled enemy spy planes flying high above the battlefield. Inflatable decoy tanks and aircraft were built to trick enemy photography into believing entire military units existed, where none actually did. Soldiers positioned these lightweight decoys carefully, mimicking real convoys down to painted shadows and fake tire tracks. Enemy analysts studying aerial photographs sometimes miscounted entire divisions based purely on inflatable equipment scattered across open fields. This clever deception helped protect real troop movements happening elsewhere, far from prying enemy eyes. Sometimes the most effective weapon on the battlefield was nothing more than air. 46. Engineers once dreamed of building a bomber that never had to land for months at a time. The nuclear-powered bomber program aimed to keep aircraft flying continuously using a small onboard nuclear reactor for fuel. Crews would rotate in and out while the plane remained airborne indefinitely, always ready to respond to any threat. Radiation shielding proved so heavy that the aircraft became nearly impossible to fly safely or efficiently in testing. Engineers eventually abandoned the entire concept once the dangers clearly outweighed any potential strategic advantage gained. The idea of an eternal bomber quietly faded into aviation history. 47. A massive cannon was once built specifically to fire a nuclear shell straight across a battlefield. Atomic Annie was a real artillery piece, capable of launching a nuclear warhead toward enemy positions from a safe distance. Soldiers, operating the weapon, needed extensive training, given the sheer power contained within a single fired shell. Its test firing produced a shockwave and mushroom cloud rarely associated with traditional battlefield artillery of that era. The weapon demonstrated how nuclear technology had expanded far beyond bombs dropped from aircraft alone. It remains one of the most dramatic artillery pieces ever constructed by the American military. 48. Engineers once built a missile designed purely to outrun another missile screaming through the sky. The Sprint interceptor was created to detect and destroy incoming nuclear warheads by accelerating faster than a speeding bullet. Its acceleration was so extreme that the missile glowed white-hot within seconds of launching from its silo. Radar systems had only moments to calculate a target before Sprint needed to launch and intercept successfully. Engineers considered it one of the most extreme feats of speed ever achieved by any weapon. It turned defending against nuclear war into a split-second race against time itself. 49. Two superpowers once secretly broke the very treaty they had both signed to prevent nuclear escalation. The Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty was meant to limit missile defense systems in order to preserve a fragile balance of power. Despite this agreement, both nations quietly continued developing defense systems capable of intercepting incoming nuclear missiles regardless. Officials publicly praised the treaty while privately funding research that directly contradicted its original intended purpose. Trust between both countries eroded further once evidence of these hidden programs eventually came to light. The treaty meant to ensure peace, instead revealed just how little either side trusted the other. 50. Ordinary-looking rocks scattered across sidewalks once secretly carried classified information between enemy spies. Soviet dead drop rocks were hollowed out and used to pass electronic data without agents ever needing to meet in person. A spy could simply walk past, drop the device, and continue on without arousing suspicion from anyone nearby. Investigators eventually discovered several of these hidden rocks planted in ordinary locations throughout major cities worldwide. The method allowed intelligence exchanges to happen in plain sight without anyone realizing anything unusual occurred. It showed how easily espionage could hide within the most forgettable everyday objects. 51. The CIA once built a tiny mechanical dragonfly, decades before anyone even imagined drone technology existing. The insectothopter was designed to fly quietly outdoors while secretly recording conversations happening nearby without drawing any attention. Its wings flapped using a miniature engine, allowing it to mimic natural insect movement convincingly at short distances. Testing revealed the device struggled significantly whenever wind conditions became anything other than calm and predictable outdoors. Despite these limitations, it represented an incredibly early step toward modern drone surveillance technology used today. It remains one of the most imaginative spy tools ever created by American intelligence. So, there you have it. 51 times the government basically handed engineers a blank check and said, "Surprise us," and somehow chickens ended up guarding a nuclear bomb while a cat became roadkill on its first day as a spy. From exploding cigars to nuclear-powered cars nobody asked for. This is exactly why Dumb Historical Inventions exists, to prove history was way weirder and dumber than your textbooks ever let on. If your brain is currently short-circuiting trying to pick a favorite disaster, smash that like button, subscribe so you never miss the next batch of chaos, and drop a comment telling me which invention on this list was the most unhinged, because I genuinely need to know I wasn't the only one yelling at my screen.